page 15. Yeah, joke alert. Why couldn't trigonometry get a loan? Because trigonometry didn't have anybody to cosine. Cosine, so you need a cosigner if you don't make enough money. Anyways, cosine law. Brand new law, right? So page 15. Very different. This is very, very different. So right now is where you don't want to fall asleep, right? So I'm going to hit you with it right away. Look at your formula sheet, or you can just look up here. But the formulas for sine law and cosine law are actually given. Notice that cosine law has two versions, and I'll show you when to use which. I'll tell you already, I'll spoiler alert, this one here is when you're trying to solve for an angle. Morning, page 15. And this one is when you're trying to solve for a missing side. And it's actually very easy to spot. And so the formulas look scary, but they're a lot easier once you watch a few examples. You're gonna be okay, I think. And you're gonna need a calculator, all that fun stuff. All right, so let's dive in. So far, we were able to solve for any oblique triangle with using the sine law. But what if you're given a triangle without a pair, right? So what if there is no pair? Because if there is one, it's sine law. But what if there isn't one? You're given the following scenarios. So sorry, if you're given the following scenarios, you can use the cosine law. So here it is. Ready? The first one I call SAS. Okay? And you'll know why I call it SAS. Sassy, right? Because you're getting a side, an angle, and a side. SAS. Side, angle, side. Sandwich, right? Like you have the angle sandwiched between the two sides that are given. You can think of it that way. Let's look at it now. Angle is sandwiched between the sides. Okay, so the check mark means there will be a number, okay guys? There'll be a number there. We will know what it is. And then there's the other one. I'll make this an obtuse triangle, okay? What's an obtuse triangle? A triangle that has one angle that's bigger than 90, right? That's what an obtuse is. Because this works for any. Okay. The other one is side, side, side. So side, side, side. So you know all three sides. Let's get rid of that angle in there. I don't want that there because you might think, oh, you know that angle. We actually don't. This is a scenario where all you have is all three sides are given. You know all three sides. So, first of all, none of them has a pair. Notice that there's no pair. There's nothing. You don't have an angle on the side across from it, so you can't use sine law. So that should be the first indicator that I have to use cosine law. So let's do SAS first. When you have side, angle, side, the only option you have there is to solve for this one side that's across the only angle that's given to you. That's the only option you have. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to use this triangle here. Notice they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same. But in this case, I'm going to use a red pen, okay? So if you want to find this side right here, right? So you're given that side, this side, and that angle, you would start your formula this way. A squared, that's where I use my different color, is going to be equal to, watch this, just the other two sides that are known, b squared plus c squared. Almost looks like Pythagorean theorem at first, but it isn't. Okay. Minus, watch this, minus 2 times b C times, here it is, cosine of the angle across the side you're trying to find. That's why I use my red pen again. Okay. And I would say this. How about this? Are known. I will say are known. What is known? This one, like all of these, you will know what they are. Okay. You're finding this one, solving for this side. Okay, so all, like everything on the right hand side, those will all be numbers down the road. This is the only thing that you're trying to solve for. So let's come up with a variation of this formula. So let's say we're trying to solve for side B, which is across angle B. So we would know this side, and that angle. This is how you would write it. Watch, I grab my pen. B squared is equal to, I know the other two sides, right? So if I'm trying to find this one, then I know A and C. So you would go A squared plus C squared minus 2 times, what's the pattern here? Do you notice the pattern up here? If I had B squared and A squared, then those two sides came up again, right? B and C showed up again. So same here, you will multiply it by A and by C. And then you'll go cosine of, what do you think is going to go there? B, yeah. Bingo. And let's do the third variation. Really, you only need to know one. If you know how this goes, what the pattern is, you're good to go. But it's good practice. If you wanted to solve for C, remember it's C squared. That means that we're going to have to square root at one point. Okay, guys? We're going to have to square root. So this is, if you want to find C, that means that A and B is given to you, right? So we'll go A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B. And don't despair right now if you're a little confused, because once we do an actual problem, it's going to probably make more sense, okay? There you go. There are your 3 variations, but really you just need one. And look at your formula sheet here. I'll just show you that this one here is this one, right? It's just a little different. Notice that they put the whole thing back here in brackets. It doesn't really matter. Both will give you the same answer. So if you want to have a color-coded version on your study sheet, you have to write this one on your study sheet. Alternatively, it is on your formula sheet. Okay, so that's this one. What if all 3 sides, if you have a side scenario, all 3 sides are given, you have a choice, guys. You have a choice. You like choices? You can solve for whichever angle you want if all 3 sides are given. So let's say I want to solve for this angle right here. That's my first choice. Then I'm going to say, then you have to start this way. Watch. Cosine, your pen, right? Cosine of angle A is equal to, put a long line here. You're going to need a long line like that. And the first thing you're always going to write down, guys, please do this. You're going to have three things, like two things adding and one thing subtracting at the end, one side. And that's the one I want you to write down first, minus the one that's across this angle that you're trying to find, which is side A. You're going to go a squared like that, lowercase a squared. And then you take the other two that you still haven't used, B and C, and just go b squared plus c squared. And then underneath, you go 2 times b times c. And you might be like, are these related, Mr. Dirksen? Absolutely. In fact, this one is just rewriting this equation. Like if I did algebra and I shifted stuff around, you would end up with this, right? But in this case, we made sure the cosine of A is isolated on its own, okay? Let's do one more, let's do them all the variations. So cosine of what? Let's try to find angle B here. Long line. The first side, the first entry is going to be minus b squared. So you should always be like, oh, what angle am I finding? What angle am I finding? Well, it's the one that's across this last number, right? So that's the angle you're finding, because it's not always going to be letter B. So since you've used B already, right, you've used this one, now it's just A and C left. So you go A squared plus C squared, and then underneath it's 2 times A, right, A times C. That is the pattern. A and C show up again. So A squared, C squared, AC. B squared, C squared, BC. Cosine of last one, right? Let's say you want to find angle C. You have to make sure, long line, that you put the side across the angle you're trying to find at the end there, and you subtract. So C is already used. That means that you have A and B left. So you go A squared plus B squared, and then 2 times A times B. Common mistakes is students forget to square, or you don't subtract the right side, because remember, you know all three sides. So if you want a certain angle, you got to make sure you have the side across from it subtracting at the end here. Okay, so this is all one line. Okay, I will say this under each of them. You must square root to find answer, to find side, I should say. And here you must use cosine inverse to find angle. These are big. You have to, right? So you'll have to square root here. You'll have to do cosine inverse here, not sine inverse, cosine inverse, because we're using the cosine law. And I'll tell you this, the exams, 99% of the time, they will give you a mark, guys, for just picking the right law. You get a mark just for that. If they see you using cosine law, even though you did everything else wrong, you get a mark already for that. So just figuring out which one to use is powerful. Okay, let's put this to the test right away. So SAS or S, all three sides, right? Those are your choices. Let's go to the next page here. Let's put it to the test. Ready? And for the first example, I will write out my formula, whether you like it or not, okay? So mean, so demanding. Cosine law to find side length, right? So we did the same thing with sine law. We first focused on side lengths and then we did the angle. So It says calculate the length of side A. That's this one right here. Notice, check, 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 right? Is this a SAS case? Right? No pair, no pair. Cosine law. So either one of these, you remember that it's a side angle side, or you just see that there's no pair. There's not even a hidden pair, right? There's no way you can get a pair out of this situation. So bubble this in. Okay. So here we go. That means, right, on your, let's go formula sheet, right? That means that you have to use this one. Your only option is to find that side, which is this version of the formula. Okay. So we're going to say to find angle, side A, we're going to say A squared is equal to the other two sides squared minus, there's always the 2, right? 2 times B times C. So in this case, they use letters A, B, C as well, times cosine of 43. I'm going to put the 43 degree down. That's the only angle that is there, by the way. Oh, sorry, I said letters, right? So don't write this down. I'm going to put a letter in there. Let's see if my whiteout works. I don't use this very often. So we're going to use angle A. Sorry, right? I want you to see that. And let's substitute in now. By the way, pay attention to this. This is literally saying 2 times B times C times cosine of A. It's all multiplying back here. Okay, so don't forget that. So let's go ahead and do this. A squared is equal to B squared, so that's 7.9. I'll go 7.9, put a little square on top, plus C squared, 5.2, square that, minus 2 times B times C times cosine of angle of 43 degrees. There you have it, guys. Insert it, substitute it in. So watch this. Leave some space here. Leave some space and then just go. This is how I normally do it. A is equal to square root of whatever I get here. Because you have to square root both sides. So grab your calculators, and if you have one of my calculators, the 2-liners, you can enter this in one shot. Watch this. 7.9. I have an X2 button. I don't know about you. You should find it if you don't. Or you have a Y to the X button. Like if you have a Y to the X, you press Y to the X2, right? Yeah. Right. So you mean that little hat there, right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can go hat 2. That also squares it. I have the X2 button, so I'm going to use that one. We will figure it out. Okay, we'll help you out. So I press the X2 button, plus 5.2 X2 minus 2, watch this, 2 times 7.9 times 5.2 times, so much times in here, cosine of 43. I dare you to do the same and get the same answer as that I'm going to get. Watch. I'm going to hit equals now. See if you can get that number. Never? Don't say that. Not yet. Not yet. I'll help you out. 361. Watch this. I'm going to use all decimals there. I'm a big proponent of using all decimals. A is equal to. So the answer is not 29, right? The answer is going to be when I press the square root button and hit equals, that is my answer. 5.42 centimeters. Would it have made sense to have an answer of 29 based on, look at the triangle. Like I have a side of 5.2, I have a side of 7.9. To all of a sudden have a side of 29 is a little outrageous, right? It's a little out there. So I hope that worked out for you. If not, I'm going to come around and harass you a little bit. No, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to say, is this working for you? Is this working for you? Because I care, right? I want you to do well. So I'll figure out the calculator. Question, guys. This is important. You can now switch over to sine law if you wanted to continue solving. Because now that you have this side, you have a pair. So you could now say, hey, I like sine law more, Mr. Dirksen, so you stay there if you want, but I'm going to go sine law. That's perfectly fine. The only downside is your answer might be a little off by 0.01. We're not going to sweat it. You're not going to lose any marks. Okay, so don't worry about that. It says here, at first you must choose one law. You cannot do sine or cosine. It's only one that you can start off with. Okay, I'm gonna skip the solve the triangle. I'm gonna get you to go straight to page 17. And it's asking you to solve for the indicated side length on page 17. So solve for side R, and B is solve for side Y. And I'll give you the answers in a bit. Okay, so just give it a try. Try to figure out the equation. If you make a mistake, not a big deal. Okay. So just make sure you have this right, and if not, then you know who to ask, right? I'm just gonna say this, guys. You need to start thinking bigger picture, not just like, oh, I'm just gonna do exactly what Mr. Dirksen told me to do today. I want you to think, it's like, oh, there's no pair. Must be cosine law. Which one are the two? Well, you have got side angle side, right? Cosine. And I don't know if on your study sheet you want to have, because you're not going to be able to bring this on the exam. You can't bring yours to the exam, your formula sheet. You'll be given a brand new one. So I don't know. I'm okay for you to do this on your study sheet, or right? You say that this one you use when it's a side angle side, and this one you use when it's a side, right? Like that way you distinguish. Some of you don't need that help. Some of you might need that help to tell you which one do I use when. Okay, so this is the side I'm wondering about. So r squared is equal to, I take the other two. It doesn't matter in which order, honestly, because you're adding two numbers together. Minus 2 times. It also doesn't matter which order you plug these ones in, as long as you do, right? Because 2 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 2, right? Multiplying, the order doesn't matter. And then this would be cosine of 90. Is that 91? Yeah, that's 91. I just want you to be aware. Watch this. Cosine of 91, it's an obtuse angle, right? Obtuse. What do you see there is that little negative, right? So obtuse returns a negative, and there's that little negative, right? As soon as it's less than 90, it's going to be positive. Okay, so slightly different, but it makes a big difference in our final answer. I'm making a big deal out of it, even though to you it won't really affect, because the way I showed you how to do it. If you have a decent calculator, you don't need to do this in steps. But if you have a calculator that doesn't have the 2 lines, you may have to do this in steps. And if you miss that this is a negative, because this negative meets that negative and it turns into a positive. I don't know if you remember your integers. A negative and a negative turn positive. Your calculator takes care of that. So if you just follow what I do, you don't really need to worry about this part. But if you do it in parts, it's going to affect you. So R is in 3 lines. This can be done, guys, in 3 lines. Right? So I'm just going to do this one more time. You have no excuse to say, Mr. Dixon didn't show me enough examples, right? Cosine 91, you get 61.715 dot dot dot, and then your next line is just to take the root, hit equals, and that's 7.86 rounded kilometers. Bingo. You got your 3 marks there. 1 mark for deciding its cosine law, 1 mark for work, 1 mark for the right answer. Yeah, trig has lots of marks associated with it. Don't use SOHCAHTOA. Oh, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. There is no hypotenuse here because we don't have a right angle. We don't have a right triangle. This one, same thing. Y squared is equal to, grab the other 2, square it, minus 2 times 12.3 times 12.1 times cosine of the only angle that is there. I don't know what this is, but I know that this is 8.55. Okay, so I don't know. I'm guessing that squared would be 65 something. I don't know. I'll just quickly figure it out. $73, I was off. 73,053 dot dot dot, and that gives you this. If you take the root of that, right? Root 8.547, the 7 bumps the 4 to a 5. Okay. Always 2 decimals, even angles. Your previous year's teachers may have said, oh, angles to the nearest degree is fine, but not here, not in grade 12, right? We're going to skip a couple pages because that's just more examples, which I will ask you to do in a bit. Go to page 20 real quick. So I'm doing angles and sides on one day, right? Sine law, I kind of eased you in a little bit. Page 20. This is going to be different, right? Cosine law to solve for angles, and that's when you have all 3 sides. It says solve for angle A. What is the 3-letter notation for angle A? For angle A, there are 2 options. You can go CAB or angle BAC. Okay, one of them. This is just a reminder. I don't want you to forget about the 3-letter notation, but we're not going to use it for our work right now. Andrew, make sure you follow now. Okay, so solve for angle A. You have choices, guys. When you have all 3 sides, you can choose any angle you want. It's asking us to find this one. So we start with it. Cosine. I'm going to use my red pen here. I wish they would have used letters other than ABC, but it is what it is. What number comes first? Which one are you going to write down first? The side that's across from that angle that you're trying to find. So we're going to go minus A squared, which means B squared and C squared are going to be added. And in the denominator, it's 2 times B times C. And here we go. Cosine of angle A is, I go and look at the number, that's 18. I'm going to go minus 18 squared. And then you take the other 2 sides, which is 30 squared plus 22 squared. I actually probably mixed them up on the formula, but I hope you're okay with that because order doesn't really matter. And then you go 2 times b, right? That first number times the second number. And here's where you have to be very careful. No quick shortcuts, guys. There are no quick shortcuts with this one. So watch this. I'm going to figure out what the numerator gives me, and I'll figure out what the denominator gives me separately. So grab your calculators. You go 30 squared plus 22 squared. I have no decimals here, but soon, like, you could have decimals as well. 30 squared, 22 squared, minus 18 squared equals, that's 1,060. Write that down. You will use all decimals here if you have to, okay? 1,060, that's our number. You clear your screen. You go 2 times 30 times 22. You get 1,320. I will say this right here. This number should always be larger larger than numerator. If you don't, you go back and check your formula, check, did you add versus subtract, did you not square one of the numbers, what did you do? Something went wrong, okay? So from this, I keep going, cosine of A, watch this, you're gonna go 1,060. I used round numbers purposely for this one because I don't want too many other things going on here. You divide them, hit equals. Don't clear your screen after you hit equals. Just keep it like that. Write down a couple decimals. And then to get angle A, remember, when it's sine A, you need to use sine inverse. When it's cosine of A, you need to use cosine inverse of 0.803 dot dot dot. And here we go. It's gonna be a little shorter next time around, okay? I'm gonna give you shortcuts because you don't really need this first part right here. You don't need to write that part. Then you go watch shift cosine or second F cosine, whatever you need to use basically what you're trying to access is whatever is written on top of cosine, right? Cosine inverse. Hit equals, and there you get it. It's 36.58. The 7 gets bumped by the 9, right? That's how many degrees. That's your final answer. So practice is super important with these ones. One more thing you need to be aware of, and that's where this next example is important. Follow me, please. It says here, determine the measure of the largest angle. What would be the 3-letter notation for this angle? How would you know where the largest angle is? Where would it be across from? Across from the longest side. I should just say across the longest side, not from. That doesn't sound right. Across the longest side. So let's go and examine the triangle. Okay, I'm going to go up, and I determine that this is the longest side. Longest side, therefore travel across This is going to be the largest angle. Okay, it's angle C in this case. So let's do this all over again. And there's going to be something different about this one, so pay close attention. Longest side, largest angle. So angle C, right? Angle C, and what's the three-letter notation? Angle, you go to one of the sides, so you go B, C, A, or angle ACB, you go backwards. And don't forget how to do that. And here we go, guys. Let's solve this thing now. I'm not going to rewrite it using letters. I'm just going to say cosine, not just C, but cosine of angle C. The first number I write down is the side that's across angle C, which is 30. So it's minus 30 squared, first number. That tells me that I'm solving for angle C. If I see a number other than 30 here, you get minus 1 right away because you're solving for the wrong angle. You are solving for one of them, but not the one I want, right? So 30 is across C. Then you grab the other two, 22 squared plus 18 squared. And then underneath, 2 times 22 times 18. The 30 doesn't show up anywhere else, right? That side that you used here to subtract, it doesn't show up anywhere else. Let's do the top and bottom separately. And there's going to be something different about this one. I would strongly encourage you to type this in with me and figure out what I'm doing. Because there's going to be a negative here. There's going to be that issue. You get negative 92. Not just 92, but negative. Negative 92. And let's do the denominator separately. 2 times 22 times 18, that's 792. And this, guys, this right here, I want to use a different color even. That tells us that angle is obtuse. Angle will be obtuse. You know that. You don't know what it is exactly, but if you can end up with a negative there, I'm going to highlight that even. The largest angle may not be obtuse. That it doesn't have to be, but in this case, we know it's going to be obtuse when you have a negative there. So one more line. Cosine of C. Grab your calculator. So you need to come up with a negative. So watch how I type this in. I'm going to go minus 92 divided by 792 to get that negative in front. Very, very important. Don't drop it. Okay. So this is negative 0.116, and that keeps on going. So angle C is cosine inverse, right? That's always a standard way of writing it, and I usually use brackets of negative 0.116 dot dot dot. So I did not clear this on my screen. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to go shift sign to, sorry, not shift sign. And let's do this again. I hope it works. Shift cosine, and you get 96.67, which is obtuse, right? Angle is C is greater than 90. Therefore obtuse, right? So we knew that already, but now it's confirmed. What's the measure of the third remaining angle? Sum of triangle, right? We're not going to do cosine again, even though you can. I wouldn't. I would just go 180. What is this that we're finding? Angle B, right? That's the only one that's still remaining. Angle B is 180 minus 3658 minus 9667. Yeah. Like you do this, you go bracket and then enter this.
I do bracket, so I do cos 1 minus 1, and then I do another bracket, and then I do 22 squared.
Oh, okay, you do the whole thing.
The entire thing, and I'm doing it comes with these. So my calculator can do the
It can be done. I would just warn, if you type, like if I don't see any work and then you get it wrong, like there's no way that I can figure out what went wrong.
So I definitely be typing everything, writing.
You sure? Okay, then I'm fine with that for sure. We're here. This is 4675. That's our third angle, and I just use sum of triangles equal to 180 property, right? That's what I used to come up with the third. Do not use cosine law again, unless you really like it, but I'm sure you don't like it that much. Okay, so when you have a choice, guys, find the largest angle first. If you're given that choice, if it just says, hey, go to town and solve this thing, find the largest one first. Trust me, it will save you a lot of headaches. I want you to try this now. Come with me to page 21. And I'll basically say that you go, I'll tell you what I would like you to do. I'm going to say pages, because I skipped some, right? 18 to 19 is still sine law. And then pages 21 to 22 is cosine. Okay, I want you to try those. It seems like a lot, but it's like there's one question per page often. So do this one first. It says solve the triangle, right? Look what it says here. Solve the triangle. You already have all three sides, so this is an SSS. All you have left to do is find the three angles. I would like you to stick with cosine law for now. Don't go to sine law just yet, because you need to hone in. You need to like really get good at this skill, okay? Should I offer that? If you are still like, hey, I want more, Mr. Dixon, because I just can't get enough. If you're that student, go to page, if you go 23 and 24, it says practice both laws. But I would say for now, just wait. Just do what I asked you to do here. Those pages are good enough. And that'll be it for today, guys. I'll give you the key yet. So this is page 21. I don't know if you were able to do page 22, but page 22, here are the answers. Because the two sides and the angle, the third angle. I don't know if you want to write this down, jot it down on page 22. And then the bottom of page 22, you have these three angles for this question right there. And I'll give you the 19 and the 20 as well. Oh, sorry, 18 to 19. 18, you get that. That's page 18. You want to write it down quickly? 195.41. And page 19. That one is a little longer than you might expect. You first figure out the direct distance, right? And then you just see how much further is it walking this way compared to just straight ahead, right? So you add these two up, right, to get this, that's the long way, this direct distance, and then you subtract these two values to get how much further it would be to walk around versus straight ahead.